Black woman saves stranger on the street, unaware he's a millionaire CEO who'll change her life. Tasha had always been someone who believed in doing the right thing, no matter how hard life became. Her life was far from easy. She worked as a nurse, a job that required long hours, constant dedication, and emotional strength. The hospital where she worked was always busy, with patients coming in and out, many of them dealing with serious health problems. Tasha could handle it. After all, she had spent years learning the ropes of her profession, and she was proud of the way she cared for her patients. At home, Tasha's life wasn't much easier. She was raising two young children on her own, making sure they had everything they needed. She had separated from her husband a couple of years ago, and though the decision was tough, it was one she knew was best for everyone. Her children were her world, and no matter how tired she felt, she always made sure they came first. There were days when she barely got a moment to sit down. But that was the reality for her, a single mother working hard to make ends meet, always thinking about the future, always hoping for a better life for her kids. Despite the challenges, Tasha never complained. She found joy in the small things, a quiet morning cup of coffee before her shift, a hug from her children after a long day at work, the smile of a patient she had helped feel better. Life was tough, but it wasn't without its blessings. One afternoon, after finishing her shift at the hospital, Tasha decided to take a walk to clear her mind. The city was bustling, as usual. People were rushing around, busy with their own lives, trying to get from one place to another. The sky was overcast, and a light drizzle of rain had started to fall. Tasha didn't mind the rain. It was actually refreshing, and she loved the way the city looked under the soft, gray clouds. She walked along the sidewalk, her head down as she avoided puddles, lost in her thoughts. It was a rare moment of peace for her, time when she didn't have to worry about a patient, her children, or the pile of bills waiting at home. But her brief moment of peace was interrupted when she heard a noise. "Excuse me, miss, could you help me?" Tasha looked up to see a man standing nearby, struggling with a heavy grocery bag in one hand and a small duffel bag in the other. He was older than her, probably in his late 40s, with disheveled brown hair and a tired expression. His clothes weren't anything special, a faded jacket, jeans that had seen better days, and worn-out sneakers. At first glance, he didn't look like anyone important. But something in his voice caught her attention. Without hesitation, Tasha stepped toward him, offering a smile. "Of course, let me help you with that." The man seemed relieved as he handed her the grocery bag. It was heavier than she expected, filled with what seemed like a dozen different items. Tasha could feel the weight of it in her hand, but she didn't mind. She looked up at the man, who was still trying to balance his duffel bag on his shoulder. "Thank you," he said. "I was just trying to get to my car, but these bags are heavier than I thought." Tasha glanced around, trying to figure out where he had parked. "No problem, I'll walk you to your car." The man smiled at her with genuine gratitude. "You don't have to, but I appreciate it." As they walked together down the street, Tasha noticed how quiet it was compared to the usual noise of the city. The rain was coming down a little harder now, but it wasn't too bad. She could hear the soft sound of the water splashing beneath her shoes as they walked, the rhythmic tapping of the rain against the pavement. The man seemed quiet, almost lost in his thoughts, but Tasha didn't mind the silence. Sometimes a little peace was all she needed. "So where are you from?" she asked, trying to make conversation. He looked at her and smiled faintly. "I'm just passing through, actually, on business." "Business?" Tasha raised an eyebrow. "You don't look like you're in a suit. What kind of business?" The man chuckled softly. "I suppose I don't look the part, but I work in the tech industry. Computers, software, all that high-tech stuff." Tasha was intrigued. "That sounds interesting. I can't say I know much about tech, but I do know it's one of the biggest industries these days." "Yeah, it is, but sometimes it's more complicated than people realize," he said, his voice becoming slightly more serious. "Anyway, I'm just trying to get home for now. I'm not used to carrying so much stuff, though. I think I should have asked for a cab instead." Tasha smiled. "It happens to the best of us." They walked in silence for a few moments, the rain falling steadily around them. Tasha felt a little odd helping this man. She didn't know him, and he didn't seem to be in any real danger, but it felt good to help someone who needed it, even if it was in such a small way. She had always believed that kindness was important, even if it wasn't always acknowledged or returned. Eventually, they arrived at a small parking lot at the end of the block. The man pointed to a car parked near the far end. There it is, he said. Thank you again for the help. I don't think I could have carried all that by myself. Tasha smiled. No problem at all. Take care of yourself. Wait, the man said, stopping her before she could walk away. I know this is going to sound strange, but you really helped me out today. I want to do something for you in return. Can I at least buy you a coffee? Tasha hesitated. She didn't want to take anything from a stranger, but there was something about his genuine offer that made her pause. She thought about it for a moment, then shook her head. That's kind of you, she said, but really I'm fine, just helping you was enough. You have a good day, okay? The man smiled again, this time with a sense of appreciation that warmed Tasha's heart. Well, if you change your mind, I'm James. Maybe I'll see you around sometime. I'm Tasha, she replied. Take care, James. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving the man standing there, watching her as she made her way back down the street. It was a small encounter, a simple act of kindness that didn't seem like it would amount to much. Tasha didn't think much more of it as she continued her walk home. Little did she know, that small act would end up changing her life forever. Tasha woke up the next morning, as usual, to the sounds of her children running around the house, preparing for school. It was a typical morning, noisy, rushed, and filled with the usual tasks of getting everything ready before they all left the house. She made breakfast, packed lunches, and made sure her kids were dressed and ready for their day. It was always a busy start to her day, but she loved it. Her children were her priority, and everything else seemed to fall into place as long as they were happy and healthy. After getting her kids off to school, Tasha had a moment to herself before her shift at the hospital. She had a few hours to catch up on some errands, but her mind kept wandering back to the brief encounter she had with James the day before. It wasn't like her to think about strangers, but something about him had stuck with her. His gentle manner, the way he smiled when she helped him, the gratitude in his voice. It was different from the typical interactions she had with people in her daily life. Tasha wasn't the kind of person to dwell on things for long, but there was something about James that lingered in her thoughts. She didn't expect to ever see him again, but she couldn't help wondering about his life. After all, he had mentioned he was in the tech industry, which she knew was a huge and often lucrative field. He didn't look like someone who would be in such a high-paying job. But then again, people often surprised her. As she walked to the bus stop that morning, Tasha's phone buzzed in her pocket. She took it out and saw an unfamiliar number. At first, she was going to ignore it, thinking it might be another spam call. But then she remembered James had given her his name the day before. Maybe this was him. Her heart skipped a beat as she answered the phone. Hello, she said, trying to sound calm, though a little nervous. Hi, Tasha, came the voice on the other end. It was James. It's James Thornton from yesterday. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Tasha's heart skipped again. She had never expected to hear from him, let alone so soon. Oh, no, not at all. It's nice to hear from you. I just wanted to say thank you again for helping me out yesterday. I was thinking about it last night, and I realized I didn't even offer you anything in return, James continued. I'm not sure if you're interested, but I wanted to extend an invitation to you. Tasha was taken aback. An invitation? She repeated, unsure of where this conversation was going. Yes, James said, his tone warm and friendly. I know this might sound odd, but I believe in paying it forward. I'd love to meet you again, maybe over a coffee or lunch if you're free. I'd like to talk more about your life and how you've been doing. Tasha wasn't sure what to think. She had helped him out of kindness, but now it felt like he wanted something from her. But he sounded sincere, and there was something about his voice that made her feel at ease. He wasn't pushy or demanding, just genuinely kind. I don't know what to say, Tasha replied, her voice soft. I wasn't expecting this, but sure, I'd love to meet. How about tomorrow? That sounds perfect, James said. I'll send you the details. Thank you, Tasha. I really appreciate you agreeing to meet. Tasha hung up the phone, her mind racing. What had just happened? She had only helped a stranger with his bags, and now he was asking to meet with her. It wasn't like her to meet with someone she barely knew, but there was something different about this situation. Maybe she was just being paranoid. He had seemed so nice, and she had nothing to lose by meeting him again. The next day, Tasha arrived at the cafe James had suggested. It was a small, quiet place in the heart of the city, away from the usual noise and hustle. She felt a bit out of place as she entered, but she reminded herself that she had agreed to meet him, and there was nothing wrong with a casual meeting between two people. She was a little nervous, but she pushed those feelings aside as she made her way to the table where James was sitting. He stood up as soon as she walked in, a smile spreading across his face. "Tasha, you made it. Thank you for coming." Tasha smiled back. "Of course. Thanks for inviting me." They sat down and the conversation started off easy. They spoke about everyday things, the weather, the city, their favorite coffee blends. But as they talked, Tasha began to feel more comfortable. There was no pressure, no awkward silences. James was easy to talk to, and she found herself laughing at his jokes. He wasn't at all what she expected, not like the stuffy CEO type she had imagined when he first mentioned his work in tech. He was down to earth, and there was something about his presence that made her feel relaxed. After a while, the conversation shifted to more personal topics. James asked Tasha about her life, her job, her children, her struggles, and her dreams. Tasha wasn't used to talking about herself, but something about his genuine interest made her open up. She told him about her work at the hospital, her hopes for a better future for her kids, and the dream she had of starting her own business one day. It wasn't something she shared with many people, but she felt safe telling him. "I've always wanted to do something on my own, you know," Tasha said, her voice quiet. "But it's hard when you're barely making ends meet. It's hard to see a way out sometimes." James listened intently, his eyes soft with understanding. "I know what you mean," he said. "Life has a way of throwing obstacles in your path, but that doesn't mean they're impossible to overcome." Tasha nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She had spent so much of her life focused on surviving day by day that she hadn't really allowed herself to think about how to make her dreams a reality. The idea of starting a business, of building something for herself and her family, felt so distant. But sitting there with James, something in her felt different. Maybe it was the way he listened to her, or maybe it was the way he talked about possibilities. "I believe you can do it," James said, his voice warm. "In fact, I'd like to help you make it happen." Tasha was surprised. "Help me? What do you mean?" "I know people, I know how to get things started, and I think you have a lot of potential. I'd like to help you get your business off the ground," James said, leaning forward slightly. "I can offer you guidance, resources, and even some financial support if that's something you'd be open to." Tasha blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "You'd really do that? For me?" James nodded. "I think you deserve a chance. Everyone needs someone to believe in them. I want to be that person for you." Tasha felt a rush of emotions, surprise, disbelief, gratitude. She had never expected anything like this. Here was this man, a stranger just a day ago, offering to help her build the future she had only dreamed of. It was overwhelming, and for a moment she didn't know what to say. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't even know what to say." "I never thought something like this could happen to me," James smiled. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that I'm here to help and I believe in you." They continued to talk for a while longer, and Tasha couldn't help but feel a sense of hope building inside her. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she might be able to change her life. And it was all thanks to a stranger who had asked for her help, and in return, was now offering her the opportunity of a lifetime. As she left the cafe that afternoon, Tasha's mind was buzzing with possibilities. What had started as a simple act of kindness had turned into something that could change everything. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would completely alter the course of her life. The next few weeks felt like a whirlwind for Tasha. What had started as a simple act of kindness had turned into something much bigger than she could have imagined. She spent every spare moment thinking about James's offer. His words kept echoing in her mind, "I believe in you." It was such a small thing to say, but it had a powerful impact on her. It was the kind of belief she had always hoped for, but had never truly received from anyone. James had sent her several emails in the days after their meeting. The first one was a simple message confirming his commitment to helping her, offering resources, and suggesting a few steps she could take to start working on her business idea. But as the days passed, the emails grew more detailed. He suggested reading materials, potential business models, and even some connections to people in the industry. It felt like he was really putting in the effort to help her succeed. But Tasha wasn't used to this kind of attention. She had always been the one to work hard in silence without expecting help from anyone. The idea of someone, especially someone she hardly knew, investing their time and energy into her success felt strange. But it also felt good. It felt like a door that had been closed for so long was finally opening. She wasn't sure where to start. She had been so focused on just getting by, getting through each day, making sure her kids were okay, that thinking about a business seemed like a distant dream. But now, with James's support, it felt real. It was terrifying but exciting. Could she actually do this? The first step James suggested was to write down her vision. What kind of business did she want to start? What were her long-term goals? What did she want to offer the world? Tasha hadn't really thought about these questions before. She had always known that she wanted to do something more than just working at the hospital, but what that something was had never been clear. One evening, after putting her kids to bed, Tasha sat down at the kitchen table with a notebook and pen. The house was quiet, the only sound coming from the hum of the refrigerator and the distant street noises outside. She stared at the blank page in front of her for a long time. How could she put all of her hopes and dreams onto paper? What was her true passion? As she sat there, her mind wandered back to the times when she had dreamed of doing something more. She remembered always wanting to help people, not just by giving them medical care, but by empowering them to live better lives. She had always been good at seeing potential in people, encouraging them to be the best version of themselves. It was what made her a good nurse. It was what she had always done for her children, so why couldn't she do that for others in a different way? The idea began to take shape in her mind. She could start a business that helped others, especially single mothers like herself. She could offer resources, mentorship, and guidance to help people in similar situations navigate life's challenges. Maybe she could create a platform that connected people in need of support, whether it was financial advice, job opportunities, or personal growth. With newfound clarity, she began to write. She scribbled down ideas, noting everything that came to her mind. The words flowed onto the page faster than she could think. The more she wrote, the more she realized how much she wanted this, how much she needed this. It wasn't just about the money or the success. It was about giving people a chance, a real opportunity to improve their lives, just as she had been given a chance by James. The next day, Tasha sent James an email. She outlined her vision, her goals, and the beginnings of her business idea. It wasn't perfect. There were still many questions and details she didn't have answers for, but it was a start. For the first time, she felt like she was on the right path. James responded quickly, his email full of praise and encouragement. He told her that he was impressed by her ideas and that she was already thinking in the right direction. He offered more resources and connected her with a few people who could help her with the technical side of things, people who could assist with website design, marketing strategies, and financial planning. It felt like everything was falling into place. Tasha had always known that starting a business wasn't easy, but she had never imagined it could be this overwhelming. Still, it was exciting, and with each new step, she felt more confident in herself. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, Tasha started to see her business take shape. She began working with a designer to create a website, figuring out how to market her services, and learning about the logistics of running a business. She felt overwhelmed at times, but she had James's guidance and support to keep her on track. James also kept in touch regularly, checking in on her progress and offering advice. Tasha appreciated his guidance more than she could express. He didn't just tell her what to do, he listened, offered suggestions, and encouraged her to find her own path. He believed in her ability to succeed, but more importantly, he believed in her potential to help others. Through it all, Tasha began to believe in herself more. She was no longer just the tired, overworked nurse. She was a woman with a mission, a purpose that extended beyond her daily grind. She was building something that could make a real difference in the world. But as her business grew, Tasha also began to feel the weight of her responsibilities. There were moments when she doubted herself, when she questioned whether she was capable of managing both her business and her family. The pressure sometimes felt unbearable, and there were days when she wondered if she was doing the right thing. But each time she felt this way, she remembered why she started this journey in the first place. She wanted to give her children a better life. She wanted to make a difference, and she knew that this was her chance to do that. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, Tasha was sitting at the kitchen table again, staring at her laptop. She had just finished a long email to a potential partner, and her mind was buzzing with ideas. She felt exhausted, but there was a sense of accomplishment in her heart. She had come so far. She wasn't where she wanted to be yet, but she was on the way. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from James. Just wanted to check in. How are you doing today? Tasha smiled at the message. It was a simple question, but it meant so much to her. She replied quickly, telling him about her day and how things were going. She thanked him again for all of his support. James responded almost immediately. I'm really proud of you, Tasha. You're doing an amazing job. Keep going. You're closer than you think. His words gave her the strength she needed to keep pushing forward. It wasn't just about building a business. It was about changing her life and the lives of those she could help. She had never felt this way before. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was truly making a difference. As the weeks went by, Tasha's business began to take off. She started receiving more clients, people who were eager to receive the support she had promised. They trusted her, and she was determined not to let them down. She was becoming the person she had always wanted to be, a leader, a guide, someone who could make a real impact in the world. And it was all thanks to a simple act of kindness from a stranger on the street. Tasha had never imagined that one moment could change the course of her life, but it had. And now, with each passing day, she was getting closer to realizing the dream she had once thought impossible. As the months passed, Tasha's business began to gain momentum. What had once felt like a distant dream was now becoming her reality. She had invested so much time, effort, and energy into making her vision come to life. Every day, she woke up with a new sense of purpose, knowing that she was doing something meaningful. The first few weeks were the hardest. She had to juggle the responsibilities of her day job, raising her children, and building a business from the ground up. There were days when she felt completely overwhelmed, days when she thought about giving up. But every time she doubted herself, she remembered the promise she had made to herself. I want to give my children a better life, and I want to help others do the same. With each challenge she faced, Tasha grew stronger. Her business started to attract more attention, and people were reaching out to her for the support and guidance she was offering. It wasn't just about the business anymore. It was about making a difference in people's lives. She knew her work was valuable, and the feeling of helping others gave her a deep sense of fulfillment. James had been right there with her every step of the way, offering his advice and encouragement. His belief in her never wavered, and that made all the difference. Whenever she encountered a roadblock, he was there to offer a solution or simply to remind her of her potential. His mentorship had been invaluable, but it was more than that. He had become a friend, someone she could trust and rely on. One afternoon, as Tasha was preparing for an important meeting with a new client, she received a message from James. It was a simple message, but it made her heart skip a beat. I'm proud of how far you've come, Tasha. You're doing amazing things. I believe in you more than you know. Tasha stared at the message for a moment, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had worked so hard to get to this point, but it was moments like this, moments when someone truly believed in her, that kept her going. The meeting that day went even better than she had hoped. Her pitch to the new client was well received, and she felt confident and poised in a way she hadn't in the past. The idea of running her own business, something she once thought was out of reach, now felt like a part of her identity. She wasn't just a nurse or a mother anymore. She was a business owner, a leader, someone who had the power to make a real impact in the world. After the meeting, Tasha sat at her desk, reflecting on how far she had come. She thought back to the days when she felt stuck, when she wasn't sure how she would ever break free from the cycle of just getting by. But now, things were different. She was in control. She had the power to shape her future, and she was doing it. But with success came new challenges. As her business grew, so did her responsibilities. There were more clients to manage, more logistics to handle, and more decisions to make. Sometimes it felt like the weight of it all was too much. But Tasha knew that these challenges were part of the journey. She had faced obstacles before, and she had learned to overcome them. This was no different. One evening, after another long day of work, Tasha sat down to check her emails. She had just received a message from a well-known entrepreneur in the field she was in. The email was brief, but it carried some exciting news. The entrepreneur was interested in collaborating with Tasha's business, offering her the opportunity to partner with their company on a large-scale project. Tasha's heart raced as she read the email again. This was the kind of opportunity she had dreamed about, the kind of chance that could take her business to the next level. She knew it wasn't going to be easy, nothing ever was, but this was the break she had been waiting for. She immediately reached out to James to tell him about the opportunity. His response was quick, as always. "That's incredible, Tasha. You've worked so hard for this. Take a moment to soak it in. You deserve it." Tasha smiled as she read his words. It was his encouragement that had helped her get to this point. His belief in her had been the push she needed to keep going when things got tough. But now, she was standing on the edge of something even bigger. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, negotiations, and preparations for the partnership. Tasha worked tirelessly, but she felt a sense of purpose and excitement she had never experienced before. She was building something that mattered. She was creating a legacy, not just for her children, but for the people she wanted to help. As the partnership came to fruition, Tasha's business expanded even further. She was able to hire more people, provide more resources to those in need, and reach more people who could benefit from the services she offered. Her dream was becoming a reality, and it was more incredible than she had ever imagined. One evening, after a particularly long day, Tasha sat in her office looking out the window. The city was quiet, the lights sparkling in the distance. She thought about how far she had come, from the tired, overworked nurse she once was to the woman who was now leading a successful business. She had built something that mattered, and she had done it on her own terms. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at the screen. It was a message from James. "I'm so proud of you, Tasha. Look at everything you've achieved. You've changed your life, and you're changing the lives of others. Keep going. You're doing amazing things." Tasha felt a lump form in her throat as she read his message. She had worked so hard to get here, but she knew she couldn't have done it without his support. He had believed in her from the beginning, and now she was living proof of what could happen when someone truly believed in you. She typed a quick response, her fingers shaking slightly. "Thank you, James. You've been with me every step of the way. I couldn't have done it without you." The message was simple, but it was everything. Tasha knew that her journey was far from over, but she was no longer the person she had been when she first met James. She was stronger, more confident, and more capable than she had ever been before. She had changed her life, and in doing so, she was helping others change theirs. As she sat back in her chair, staring out the window at the city that had always seemed so big and intimidating, Tasha smiled. She had made it. And this was just the beginning. Tasha's life had changed in ways she never could have imagined. What started as a simple act of kindness, a brief encounter with a stranger, had set off a series of events that had turned her world upside down. Her business was thriving, her children were flourishing, and for the first time in a long time, she could see a future full of possibilities. But with this newfound success came a deeper realization. Everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of, had come because she had stepped out of her comfort zone and taken a chance. Looking out the window of her small office, Tasha felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The city below looked busy, just as it always had, but now it felt different. She had built something of her own, and the view of the city below, once just a distant backdrop, now felt like part of her journey. She had come so far from the tired woman who had barely scraped by, and yet she knew that this was just the beginning. There were still challenges, of course. The work was never easy, and running a business, especially one that focused on helping others, came with its own set of obstacles. But now, Tasha had the confidence to face them. She no longer felt like she was stumbling through life. She was walking with purpose, and each step forward brought her closer to the life she had always wanted, not just for herself, but for her children, and for the people she could help along the way. Tasha had become a role model, not just to her children, but to many others in the community. Her business, which had started as an idea in a small notebook, had grown into a lifeline for single mothers and others who were struggling to make ends meet. She offered not just services, but a community of support, a place where people could turn to when they needed help. She knew that every phone call, every email, and every meeting had the potential to change someone's life, just as James had changed hers. But even with all her success, Tasha never forgot where she had come from. She knew that the key to her journey wasn't just the opportunity James had given her, but the ability to recognize it and act on it. He had given her the tools, but she had built something real with them. She had learned that success wasn't just about hard work, it was about believing in herself and the power of possibility. One morning, as she sat at her desk, her phone buzzed with an incoming message. It was from James. As usual, he was checking in on her progress, offering encouragement and advice. I just wanted to let you know how proud I am of everything you've accomplished, the message read. You've done more than just create a business. You've built a foundation for the future. You should be so proud of what you've achieved. Tasha smiled as she read his words. It had been a while since they had met in person, but his support had never wavered. He had always believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. He had shown her what was possible when you had someone in your corner, and now she was paying it forward by helping others. She replied to his message, her heart full of gratitude. Thank you, James. I couldn't have done any of this without your guidance. You've helped me believe in myself when I needed it most. As Tasha sent the message, she couldn't help but think about how far she had come. She had started this journey unsure of herself, unsure of whether she could really make a difference. But now, as she looked at her growing business, her thriving family, and the people she had helped, she knew that she had done something important. She had created a life she was proud of. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from one of her clients, a single mother who had reached out to Tasha a few months earlier for help with starting her own business. The woman had just launched her own small online store, and her first few sales had come in. Thank you so much, Tasha, the message read. I couldn't have done this without your support. You've changed my life. Tasha's eyes filled with tears as she read the message. This was why she had started this journey in the first place, to help people. To show them that no matter where they started, they could rise above their circumstances and build something of their own. Her phone buzzed again, and this time it was a video call from her children. They were both home from school, eager to talk to their mom. Tasha answered the call with a smile, her heart swelling with love for them. Hi, Mom, her son said, holding up a drawing he had made in class. Look, I made this for you. Tasha's heart melted as she saw the bright, colorful picture he had created. It was a simple drawing of their house with a big sun shining above it, but to Tasha it represented so much more. It was a symbol of the life she was building for them, a life filled with love, hope, and opportunity. Her daughter joined in, showing her a report card with all A's. I did it, Mom, she exclaimed. I got straight A's. Tasha beamed with pride. I'm so proud of both of you, she said. You're amazing. As they chatted, Tasha realized that her success wasn't just about her business. It was about creating a better future for her children. She had worked hard, but now she was seeing the fruits of her labor. Her kids were thriving. They were growing up in a home filled with love, support, and opportunities, and Tasha knew that they would carry these values with them for the rest of their lives. After the call ended, Tasha sat back in her chair, a deep sense of fulfillment settling over her. She had made it. She had changed her life, and in doing so, she had created a better future for her children and countless others who were now benefiting from her work. It wasn't just about the success of her business. It was about the relationships she had built, the lives she had touched, and the legacy she was creating. Tasha knew that the journey wasn't over. There were still challenges ahead, and there would always be more work to do. But now she was ready for whatever came next. She had the confidence, the strength, and the determination to face anything that came her way. Looking out the window once again, Tasha thought about the long road she had traveled. It had been full of struggles, doubts, and hard work, but it had also been full of triumphs, growth, and moments of joy. She had built something real, something meaningful, and it had all started with a single act of kindness. She thought about James and how his belief in her had changed her life. She thought about the people she was now helping and the impact she was making in the world. And she knew, without a doubt, that this was just the beginning. The future was bright, and Tasha was ready to embrace it, knowing that no matter where the road led, she would keep moving forward, one step at a time.